Hello, everyone. Today we are in Acts chapter 26, continuing with the story of Paul and his trip. So let's talk about his new cruise that he's going to be going towards. So let's see here. Chapter 26. Then Agrippa said to Paul, "You may speak in your defense." So Paul gestured with his hand, started his defense. "I am fortunate, King Agrippa, that you are the one hearing my defense today against all these accusations made by the Jewish leaders. For I know you are an expert on all Jewish customs and controversies. Now please, listen to me patiently. As the Jewish leaders are well aware, I am given a thorough Jewish training from my earliest childhood among my people and in Jerusalem. If they would admit it, they know that I have been a member of the Pharisee, the strictest sect of our religion. Now I am on trial because of my hope in the fulfillment of God's promise made to our ancestors. In fact, that is why the 12 tribes of Israel zealously worship God night and day, and they share the same hope I have. Yet, Your Majesty, they accuse me for having this hope. Why does it seem incredible to any of you that God can raise the dead? I used to believe that I ought to do everything I could to oppose the very name of Jesus the Nazarene. Indeed, I did just that in Jerusalem. Authorized by the leading priest, I caused many believers there to be sent to prison. I cast my vote against them when they were condemned to death. Many times I had them punished in the synagogues to get them to curse Jesus. I was so violently opposed to them that I even chased them down in foreign cities. One day, I was on such a mission to Damascus, armed with the authority and commission of the leading priests. About noon, Your Majesty, as I was on the road, a light from heaven, brighter than the sun, shone down on me and my companions. We all fell down, and I heard a voice saying to me in Aramaic, 'Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? It is useless for you to fight against my will.' 'Who are you, Lord?' I asked. And the Lord replied, 'I am Jesus, the one you are persecuting. Now get to your feet, for I have appeared to you to appoint you as my servant and witness, to tell the people that you have seen me, and tell them what I will show you in the future, and I will rescue you from both your own people and the Gentiles. Yes, I am sending you to the Gentiles to open their eyes so that they may turn from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God. Then they will receive forgiveness for their sins and be given a place among God's people who are set apart by faith in me.' And so, King Agrippa, I obeyed that vision from heaven. I preached first to those in Damascus, then in Jerusalem, and throughout all Judea, and also to the Gentiles, that all must repent of their sins and turn to God, and prove they have changed by the good things they do. Some Jews arrested me in the temple for preaching this, and they've tried to kill me, but God has protected me right up to this present time, so I can testify to everyone from the least to the greatest. I teach nothing except what the prophets and Moses said would happen, that the Messiah would suffer and be the first to rise from the dead, and in this way announce God's light to Jews and Gentiles alike." Suddenly Festus shouted, "Paul, you are insane! Too much study has made you crazy!" But Paul replied, "I am not insane, most excellent Festus. What I am saying is the sober truth, and King Agrippa knows about these things. I speak boldly, for I am sure these events are all familiar to him, for they were not done in a corner. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know you do." Agrippa interrupted him. "Do you think you can persuade me to become a Christian so quickly?" Paul replied, "Whether quickly or not, I pray to God that both you and everyone here in this audience might become the same as I am, except for these chains." And then the king, the governor, Bernice, and all the others stood and left. As they went out, they talked it over and agreed, "This man hasn't done anything to deserve death or imprisonment." And Agrippa said to Festus, "He could have been set free if he hadn't appealed to Caesar." Wow. This is a bold move. I pray to God that not only you, but all who are listening to me today will become what I am, except for the chains. Paul's attitude focused so clearly on the fact that he wants people to know Jesus. His whole life has been focused on it. And he was given an opportunity to preach the gospel in a way that's so clear. So clear. And yet, how many times have we been given the privilege to share the gospel and we've cowered back? You see, looking at Paul should be the inspiration for us to realize that, yes, in whatever we do, the giftedness that God gives us, he gives it to us so that we could be committed to sharing the gospel. Yet, if we look at percentage-wise of our life, how many percent of our life is focused on us and how many percent of our life is focused on preaching the gospel? And in a bold way like this. Pastors all over the place. And if you're a pastor, and this is you, sorry, this may be true. We're stuck behind four walls of the church, and when we do meet with people, it's people within our community, our church community. And what we need to be doing is to go out and share the gospel of Jesus Christ, as well as all of our congregation members. And see, when people don't do what God has called them to do, of course their life is not going to be fulfilled. I have a phone right here. If you don't charge this phone, you don't use this phone, you don't make calls. Who makes calls on phones anymore? If you don't text, if you don't communicate, if the primary purpose of this phone, it's useless. And that's exactly the point today, is that if we're not living up to what God has designed us for, which is designed us and He called us to be His children, to share the gospel to everyone, to be bold about it the way Paul was, and focus on God, then we're not really living out our lives. We can't ask God to bless me, so that I could what? Continue on with my own work? It doesn't work that way. If I look at someone who has a phone and I said, tell me that I'm great, I'm awesome, because I have this super duper brand new phone that I just leave on the table and have no idea how to use it. And tell me I'm doing a good job because that's what I'm doing. No, you're not doing a good job. No, that's not how things should be. If I see someone who uses their phone or uses a tool or plays piano well, then I would bless them with a compliment. I'm a 40-some-year-old person who plays piano well. Fine. People give me compliments for playing piano. That's nice. I was offered a job. I knew someone who worked human resources with Nordstrom back then, when they would have pianists sitting inside the stores and just play to entertain people. I was offered a job to play piano, just sitting around playing pop songs. I mean, what better thing to do in your free time than making $40 an hour playing pop songs wearing a tuxedo? Hey, and sitting in AC, plus being in a nice environment and having discounts to clothes. That's perfect. I can't afford Nordstrom anyway. But the reality with that is, yes, a person who's been trained gets compliments. The person who's doing his craft in front of his tool gets compliments. But if you get a moron to sit in front of a piano at Nordstrom's, like how they used to have it before, and he just sits there and plays chopsticks, ding 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 ding, people might get a few chuckles, but he won't get complimented. Not for long. Can you play anything else? No. And that's the thing. When we look at our lives, those of us who are doing something else with our lives is like us sitting at the piano and using the piano as a desk, as a table. Those of us who use a piano properly will understand you do not use a grand piano as a desk. You don't use it as a tool. That's why it's so annoying to me at church or even in my house when people come over and they put their drink cup on top of my piano. My friends, pianos are expensive. Same with your life. And for Paul, he used his life to the max. How he was called and designed to live it. He did it. He has no regrets. The question for all of us who are left standing here or sitting here is that with our life, with the tools that God has given us, just say, for example, for me as a person, the tool God has given me is the piano. And if I don't learn how to use it and then use it properly for His calling in my life, it's like a person who sits in front of the piano and uses that as a dinner table or uses that as a desk to do something else. I know it doesn't matter. That analogy only goes so far, but it's still it's blunt to the point where we need to see that if we are not living according to what God has called us to do and be a testimony to Him, however He calls us, we may not be called to be like Paul, but we are all called in our own way, and we all have to answer before God. But the question is, with all the tools that He's given us, how have we trained ourselves in those tools, and then how are we utilizing those tools to further the kingdom and to go as far as we can. That's why I always encourage people. I don't care what you want to be when you grow up, but be the best that you can in a godly way, and do whatever is honorable, and then teach others to do it. And as you're teaching others, you can make an impact on their life by sharing Jesus with them too. That's why if you want to change the world, be a professor in college, be the best in your field, and you have everyone who is educated to go through that, whether they're here in the States, they come from another country, or whatnot, they go through that system. They will interact with you at the highest level. And then those people, if you've trained them and discipled them well, they will go back to their countries or their places of work, and they will impact and touch other people's lives as well too. So, are you living up to your potential? Are you living up to your design? That's my question for you. Have a great one. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.